Welcome back. And if you've been following along, you know that this is the fourth in a series of podcasts in the Resilient Entrepreneur podcast, where I've been talking about hang-ups, obstacles, and challenges. So, with that said, this is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting, and we're going to talk about not so much a statement as I did in the previous three, but I'm going to talk more about a theme. And the theme is when you have hate or negativity or just passive resistance, and that passive resistance in itself is an entire podcast, or quite honestly, it could be a whole series of podcasts. But when you find yourself in a position where the majority, doesn't have to be everyone, but the majority, or even maybe some people who are in somewhat of an influential position are saying something is not good, it's bad, they don't like it, could be any number of things. And you may find yourself in that position where you're feeling all that, and you may think, well, you start the self-doubt, or maybe you're not happy because maybe you know it's right, but everyone's against you. So the one thing I want you to think about is, and this is kind of like the moment of truth. This is where leaders emerge. And it could be, if you listen to the first in this podcast series, I was talking about how people are spending their money today. And, you know, their Rolex stores are sold out. You know, people are waiting in line to buy purses that are thousands of dollars. But yet you may have team members that say patients don't want to pay their deductible, or patients don't want to pay their copay, or patients won't pay for a filling or a crown, or people won't pay for the overages in their house or anything of the sort. And the reality of it is, this is something that's super common, and you have to sometimes take it for what it is, because sometimes that negativity, passive resistance, what have you, sometimes you have to take that for what it is, and it's just how people process. It's how others may move through change. Maybe they've just now really been exposed to it, and you've been thinking about this for hours, days, weeks, months, or more, and you've already racked your brain, run through a number of scenarios, solutions. You've talked to other experts or other people in the field, and you know what can happen, what should happen, but maybe they're not there yet. This is where leaders emerge. We didn't have light bulbs at one point, and could you imagine at some point in time someone saying, we're gonna screw this thing into the ceiling, and you're just gonna flip a switch and we're going to have light? Well, that back in the days, that would have sounded absolutely absurd. When you fast forward to today and you thought, well, we're going to have handheld devices. You remember back even when I was a kid, you watched Star Trek and they're talking on these wireless devices, and they just flip it open and they make a call or connect with someone else. How absurd was that? We have cell phones today. I wasn't even a Star Trek fan, but I just use this as an example periodically where, you know, they had the automatic opening doors. You know, that was absurd back in the day. But, you know, the funny thing is, you don't go to a gas station hardly anymore that doesn't have automatic doors. Grocery stores, automatic doors. So there's a point at which leaders will emerge to help others see the vision. And it's not that you even have to be technically a visionary, but you know that something can and should be better or different. Austin, who does these podcasts for me, he's actually really diving deep in computer science now. And as he's processing this, maybe I'll make him laugh. But, you know, the funny part is it may be that someone says, well, my computer's a complete piece of garbage now, and I'm just going to go buy a new one. And maybe Austin knows how to fix it. It could be something as simple as that. It could be that you have team members that you want to grow a service or a product in your business, and team members might be saying people aren't going to buy it. They're not going to pay for it. They may want it, but they're not going to pay for it. And I will tell you hands down, if you start with that attitude, you are 100% right. They will never buy it because it's going to come across, we're not going to talk about it or present it. Even if we did, even if we were in theory, forced to talk about it. It's not like we're going to do it with enthusiasm. It's not like we're going to do it, do it with conviction. But if you really think about these things where you get the group think about this is not going to work or it won't happen or people won't buy it, fill in the blank, it doesn't matter what it is. Basically, it's just people don't want to do something, and sometimes it's how they have to process. Their friends or people that I know that they have to shoot holes in something first. They have to make it, tear it apart, make it look ugly. And, if you don't know them any better, you'd think that, oh my Lord, this person is just totally negative and everything's terrible. But I know them well enough to know that this is just how they tear something apart before they grab hold of it and use it. And that's all well and good. But you have to see it, recognize it, understand it, and work with it. So there's other people that they may legitimately just believe this will never work. It just will not work. And it's still incumbent upon us to figure out how we get through, because this is, again, how leaders emerge. We have people right now putting people in space. We thought that was only for astronauts. Not anymore. It's now that you could buy a ticket on a rocket with someone else and go see the stars up close. So when you encounter this with and when I say team, it may not be your immediate team, it could be even your peripheral team. But when you get the pushback of why something won't work, you need to think back to the comment that this is when leaders emerge. And the question is, what are you going to do to get the point across to them? What are you going to do to get them to see what you've already seen, which has given you the belief and the conviction that we can and should be doing this? And whether that doing this is I'm selling something or I'm promoting something, talking about something, you have to put it in front of them so they can come to the same conclusion. Sometimes people have to do it, try it. It could be that they have to see different things. I mean, it's interesting. In a previous podcast, I talked about a friend, past client of mine, who's doing 1 to 2 full arch cases per week in an area of the country that we would not rank real high as having, the most affluent people in the United States. So if I were to say to any one of you right now, you're going to do 1 to 2 full arch cases per week, the immediate thought might be, we don't have the clientele or the patient load around here to actually do that. Somebody else is doing it. So we have to figure out, and that's what leaders really do, is they figure out the how. And they figure out how to get the buy-in from other people. And that's really, really at that point, when you think about the hard work of things, and you even think back to the comment I said earlier about in a previous podcast where I talked about I have to do it. That's where some of that comes from, is we've not taken the time to figure out how we get the point across to the rest of the team, how they get to see what we've already seen, and help them come to the same conclusion so they can have the same enthusiasm and conviction when they're talking to our patients, our clients, about whatever it is. Again, whether it's full arch cases or selling a house or whatever, that's where that question about leaders emerging, and they get that point across to other people. Elon Musk, electric cars for everyone. Bill Gates, a computer on every desktop. It's the same type of thought and mentality. Maybe it's on a smaller scale, but it's on your scale. It's your business. And if there's been one theme in the last, count this the 4th podcast in this small series I've done, it is about income, your freedom, your time. It's those things. And if that's what you want out of life, so you're not constantly on a treadmill, so you're not constantly working for the next paycheck, if you want freedom, if you want time, if you want your life back, then you need to figure out how to get these points across to other people. And I've given you some framework. Every situation is going to be a little bit different. But I will guarantee you, when you decide I'm going to be the leader that emerges, your life is going to change. So, with that said, there may be more in this series. Those are the 4 that I had planned initially. Who knows? Stay tuned. I may surprise you. There may be more to come. As always, if you have questions, comments, feedback, other things that you'd love for me to cover, please contact me directly or drop it in the comments below. Love to hear from you.